Welcome to 24 Hours of Pass, growing our community. We're excited you could join us today for Murilo and Miranda's session, Curious Cases of Availability Groups. This 24 Hours of Pass event consists of 24 consecutive webcasts delivered by up-and-coming speakers and experts from the Pass community. All sessions will be available next week on 24 Hours of Pass. My name is Neil Hambley. I'm today's moderator. I'm the London Pass chapter leader and also the Professional Development VC chapter leader. I have a few quick introduction slides before I hand over the reins to Murilo. He will then speak for 40 to 45 minutes, after which we will then move on to the Q&A, where you can ask any questions you may have from today's session. Murilo, next slide, please. If you're having any issues, just raise your hand using the icon on the right-hand side of the screen and somebody will assist you. To maximize your screen, use the Zoom button located on top of the presentation window. Do feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A field at any time during the session. These questions will be answered at the end of the session. The question pane is located on the right-hand side of your screen. Once we get to the Q&A portion of the session, I will then read off your questions to Murilo. Since all attendees are muted, you will need to submit questions by typing in the Q&A field only. Note there will be a short evaluation at the end of this session. Your feedback is important to us, so please do take a moment to complete it. This will show up on your screen on the completion of the webinar. Next slide, please. I'd like to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsors, Microsoft, Cisco, and Dell Software. In addition, I'd also like to thank the support sponsors for this event, who are SQL Sentry, HP, and SolarWinds. The staging of 24 Hours of Pass would not be possible without their support and dedication, and they are the reason this event is available free of charge. Next slide, please. Next, I'd like to bring your attention to the up-and-coming Pass Summit. This is taking place in Seattle, Washington from October the 27th through to October the 30th. Pass Summit 2015 will feature over 200 sessions with world-class SQL Server experts. Planned and presented by the SQL community for the SQL community, Pass Summit is single-handedly the largest gathering of SQL Server and BI professionals. With over 5,000 attendees from all over the world, Pass Summit is also a great place to network and meet face-to-face with experts, peers, and MVPs. More importantly, Pass Summit delivers on providing you with the answers to your SQL Server issues, along with the knowledge, strategies, and skills you will need to stay ahead of the curve. Contact your local chapter for a discount code to save $150 off. Optimize your savings by registering before the next change on Sunday, July the 12th. For more information about the summit, visit www.passsummit.com. Next slide, please. And now please let me introduce you to the speaker of the hour, Murilo Miranda. Murilo is a lead database consultant at Python, and he's also, I mispronounced that for a second. He's also has articles on the Python blog, SQL Shack, and also is presented in and has word entries in Portuguese. And I was fortunate enough to spend some time with Murilo at the last Portuguese SQL Saturday. So I'm now going to hand over the reins to Murilo for his presentation. Murilo, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. Good day to everyone. Here in Portugal, at least, is a sunny day, beautiful day, so I'm locked in my room to present this to you, but after that I'm going to the beach. No, I'm joking, I need to work. Today I'm going to talk about availability groups. I had a set of curiosities to show you, but yeah, were too much, and I select only 6. My idea here is to show some useful things for your work day, basically for your work when you're working with availability groups, and I hope this will help you in the future. So, menu for today is a very light introduction to availability groups, and then we'll dive into the curiosities. We have, as I said, 6 questions to be answered here. Yeah, and in the end, you can, if you have questions, you can talk to me. Okay, so let's start talking about availability groups. First of all, always on. Always on is not a single feature. I see a lot of people make confusion calling availability group as always on. In fact, availability group is part of the marketing term always on, but this is not only availability groups. There are 2 complementary solutions. There are always on failover cluster and there is always on availability groups. On this session, we are going to talk about availability groups, right? Yeah, the failover cluster can survive without availability groups, but to have the availability groups, we need to have a failover cluster set up there, okay? So, always on availability groups was introduced on SQL Server 2012. And this came with the promise to be the database mirroring replacement. Still today, database mirroring is there. It's not died, but it's deprecated. This is based on failover cluster, as I said. So at SQL Server 2012, this supported 4 replicas with some readable secondaries. So this is an advantage compared to database mirroring because you can access the replicas to read. You have also a listener where you can point the connections. So yeah, if one instance is the primary and then you have a failover, you will be redirected to the new primary replica. No shared storage is required even with the failover cluster. You don't need to have any more shared storage. You can build a failover cluster without this. And the bad thing is that this is an enterprise feature. After the release of SQL Server 2014, we got some improvements. The nice thing here is the availability of the readable secondary was improved. So even if the primary is not online, you can still access the secondary. You have more replicas. The number of replicas was increased from 4 to 8. A better diagnostic. Azure replica support was I can call active by default since the RTM version. 2012 you can do this as well, but installing some patches, but it is still enterprise feature. And like last month in May, Microsoft announced the next version of SQL Server, the SQL 2016, and together with this new version that will be released next year. You can, of course, because of the name, you can understand this, and is available already to be downloaded CTP. I think yesterday or 2 days ago they released the CTP 2.1, so we can go there and download to play the new features of SQL Server. But this new version will bring some more improvements here, starting for a better control for the failover conditions. So now SQL Server is looking also, is giving the option to look to the database level before of this. So in the versions of 2012 and 2014, SQL Server was looking only to the instance level in order to decide for a failover or not. On 16, you have this other option. Have also up to 3 synchronous replicas to auto failover, MES DTC support, something that people was asking a lot for this, full support to group managed service accounts, load balance for the readable secondaries, which is a very nice thing as well. The log transport was improved, and it's nice because it's not 100% confirmed, but we should have a version for standard edition. If you download this 2016, you see that you have an option called Basic Availability Groups, which is available, and yeah, we have some limitations, okay, and this looks like to be the version for the standard edition. So basically what I can say about this is a database mirroring with some makeup on this, okay? And more difficult to set up, by the way. But yeah, it's based on the availability groups engine. Okay, so from 2012 to 2016, you had some improvement to the secondary replicas, okay, from 4 to 8. Synchronous replicas increased from 2 to 3, and automatic failover you can have up to 3 synchronous replicas to be failover target. Okay, so this was the quick introduction. It's difficult to explain everything and also show the curiosities, I can say. So let's start. Are you curious? Yeah, so let's start with the first one. So the first question to be answered here is what happens when I add a readable secondary? Okay, so just to have some background here, we have the concept of replicas on availability groups. Okay, basically you can have primary replica and one primary replica only, which is readable and writable, and you can have some other secondary replicas. About the secondary replicas, you have the option to keep this on hold without accepting connection, like you have in the database mirroring, or you can open this to be readable. Okay, so there is always a trade-off when you are open this to be readable. Okay, there is no free lunch, so you need to expect some side effects, I can say. And this can affect the primary replica in a performance point of view. So let me explain this. You have in the secondary replica side something called redo thread. And this redo thread is responsible to apply all the incoming log records. This redo thread cannot be blocked, but why? So I will show you an imaginary scenario here. Let's pretend that this is happening. This is not true. If you try to do this, this won't work, okay? But it's just to show you this possibility, okay? So you have the secondary replica and the primary replica, okay, in synchronization. And in the secondary replica, this is open to be readable. So you execute this query here in order to get a report. You set the isolation level to repeatable read and open a transaction and don't close the transaction. Run your select, blah, 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 all good. This will issue a shared lock on the data rows. But in the primary, you open another transaction to update the same row that you are reading in the secondary. And of course, primary and secondary replica are trying to be in sync. So what's going to happen here? What would happen here? The redo thread would be blocked because of this shared lock. Okay, so in this scenario, this would not work, and actually this would happen very often if this were possible. But yeah, this is not a problem. So what Microsoft did to avoid this kind of situations? Okay, basically all the transactions in the secondary replica are mapped to snapshot isolation. So basically here, when you set isolation level as a repeatable read, this is being translated to, this would be translated in this case, to snapshot isolation. There are two important points here. First one is when you use snapshot isolation, you add additional overhead. And also TempDB will be affected in the secondaries. But I'll explain you better this. Snapshot isolation uses whole versioning. Okay? And those versions are stored in the TempDB. So this will affect the secondary replica because your TempDB will need to store all the versions that you are selecting. Okay, and the other one is an extra 14-byte pointer is linking the modified rows. Okay, and this is a problem because you need to have the same structure in the primary and secondaries. And this means that if you are adding a 14-byte in the secondary, you need to add in the primary. Okay, so what are the lessons from here? So looking for the secondary point of view, you need to pay attention to the TempDB size because of this row versioning. So yeah, take a look to this, try to to plan accordingly the TempDB. And also, because of the row versioning also, you need to transverse all the row versions chain in order to reach the right version. And this may lead to logical I/Os and hand-on physical I/Os. Okay, so you will have more loads there. In the primary point of view, the table size may increase by up to 5%, so you need to plan the user space. This will increase. If you just enable the secondary to be readable, you need to expect this in the primary, okay? And also, still about this extra 14 byte, you can have fragmentation because of the page splits that this may create, okay? So here, this was the first curiosity, okay? And let's check the second one now, okay? So why do I have different options to control connections to the availability group? If you look in the availability group configuration panel, basically, you can see that when you set replica to be readable, you have two options of readable. You have an extra one that is no, I don't want to open this to be readable. But when you decided to open the secondary replica to be readable, you have two options. One is yes, which means that you open to be read only, and the second one is read intent only. Okay, but why this exists? Why we have two different options here? Okay, so let's see a scenario here. You have this troll user which is trying to connect to a secondary replica that is read only. Okay, yeah, the yes option, and this guy is trying to execute an insert there. What's going to happen? Of course, this will not work. This will not work, and a message that will be returned to this error message that will be returned to this user saying that the update, the insert in this case, failed because the database is in read-only, of course. Okay. Another user tried to do the same thing, but in another replica, which is marked as read intent only. What happened? An error also. But this error is saying another thing. It's saying that the target database is in availability group and is currently accessible for connections when the application intent is set to read only. Another error message. So comparing both errors, I can understand that the first one failed when the user tried to execute the query, but the second one failed in the connection phase. The user wasn't even able to connect to the database in order to run that insert. So when you set a replica to be read intent only connections with that are explicitly showing that the intent is read only will be able to connect to get access to the database. You can still connect using this parameter, but and try to execute the insert, but the insert of course will fail. But this is trying to protect this. So I will show the end of this curiosity why this is happening. But we need to check something first. It's about the primary replica. So we have options for the primary replica as well. People usually don't talk too much about the primary, just about the secondary, the readable ones. But in the primary, you have also two options to control the connections. The options are accept all connections or accept read and write only connections. Okay, and what's the effect of this? Let's pretend that the user is trying to connect with the read-only intent to a primary replica set as read and write only. And the objective of this user is run a report, a heavy report there in the primary replica. Okay, so the primary replica usually is where the application connects and do all the transactions. So if you run a report there, probably your end user will be affected. The application can be slow, you can have performance problems there. So this user is using a read-only intent, trying to connect to a read and write-only primary replica. So what's going to happen? The same error as you saw in the read intent-only secondary replica. The user will not be able to even connect because he's using here explicitly using the application intent read-only. If you try to connect to a read-only replica without specifying your intention, you'll be able to connect. Okay, by default, SQL Server is assuming that you want to do normal work there without reports. So, comparing the options here, we can understand that the main objectives of those two columns with connection options are avoid wrong workload in the secondary or primary replica. So basically, the primary replica needs to be able to talk with the application. Okay, so not too much reports, so more OLTP in the primary, and the secondary replica can be used as load balance for the application as well. But if you have reports to do, this is the preferable place to do this because it will not affect the primary one. So reports to the read-only and OLTP to the primary. Okay, you need to write, and there in the primary is the only place you can do this, right? So by defining well and yeah, you need to sit with the application engineers and the DBAs. Yeah, you need to make a conversation there and plan accordingly everything. So the application should follow the rules. Okay, adding in the connection string the application intent, if it's read-only or read and write. As I said, you can set the application intent as read-write, but if you just don't put the application intent, SQL Server will assume that you have this intention. Okay, yeah, and configuring application this way, you'll be able to assure that the connections to the right replicas will be done. In addition, you need to configure the replicas accordingly. Look for that panel of the availability groups to configure the connectivity rules, and also you need to configure the read-only route. This is very important if you have more than one secondary replica as well. Okay, so those are the good practices, and in the end of the day, you understand that those options are just to avoid problems when connecting to the replicas. Okay, so you send the user to the right replica instead of leaving this open to connections from everywhere. Okay, so this was the curiosity number 2. So let's go to the number 3 now. And the number 3 is, how does statistics work in a readable secondary? This is important also. So how this works? All the statistics are maintained in the primary replica, okay, where you can read and write, and the statistics are transferred as usual to the secondary. But you have some problems here. Permanent statistics on secondary database may be stale at some point, and because queries executed on primary may not be similar to the ones executed in the secondary. Why? Because of what I just said. Usually, people use the primary database to do the OLTP work, and the secondary to be a place to report, to get more heavy queries there. Or even if your application is doing some kind of load balance and you are doing inserts in the primary and few reads, and the heavy selects are done in the secondary replica, the workload will be different in the same way. So yeah, this means that the statistics in the primary would not fit with your workload in the secondary. Okay, so we have a problem here. The secondary replica is read-only. So how can I create statistics there if the database is not writable? So I'm executing select reports, and I cannot save the statistics to create a good, to be the base of a good execution plan in the secondary. What was done to solve this? So basically, temporary statistics are created, and the TempDB, again, the TempDB is created, is used to be base of this. All the statistics with the suffix read-only database statistics are temporary statistics. And the bad thing here is, if you restart SQL Server or fail over the availability group, you will lose everything. And This will be created again when we run the queries again. So to show an example of this, I'm going to do a demo, the first demo of today, right? So let me open the files. Okay, in the right replica, I will increase this. Basically, I'm going to create a very simple table here with 3 columns, integer columns, right? In the primary replica, by the way, I have here an availability groups with 2 replicas. Okay, this one is the primary one. This availability group has 1 database only, and as I said, you have 2 replicas. Okay, so I created the table. I'm going to insert a row there, 1 row only, and we can check the statistics of this object, and you can verify that nothing was returned. So there is no statistics for this object. Now I'm going to run a select, simple select. Okay, and the select will return nothing because there is no ID -1. So let's check again the stats and see the result. Okay, now we have something here. We can see that we have these statistics here created for that object. It's cool. Now I'm going to execute another script in the secondary replica. Okay, let me confirm we are not in the secondary, we are in the primary. So let me change the connection. Okay, so I'm going to execute the query the stats again in the secondary. Oops, I'm in the wrong database. And I can confirm that the same statistic is either on primary and secondary, or both, sorry, in the primary and the secondary. But now let me show something more. Let me just close this guy. I'm going to query the same table in a different way. Okay, I'm just using the code employee as filter instead of the ID as before. So let's run this. I run a report, a very small report, but it is a report. Okay. So let's query again these stats, and I can see there are new statistics were created. Okay, so same object, you can see here, the statistic that was created before from the primary replica and the statistic created by the secondary replica because of this workload that we just did. Okay, you can note that we have that suffix here, read-only database statistics. And this is not the only evidence. You have another column here that is saying that this is a temporary statistic. So that's the behavior of SQL Server when you have a secondary replica open to a read-only and you execute queries there. Everything is going to be in the TempDB. Again, TempDB is very important. You have the versions, the raw versions, and you have statistics there. So you need to plan very well the TempDB when you have a scenario like this, right? So let's go back to the slide deck. We are done with this third one. Okay, let's go to the fourth. And the question here is, can I create multiple listeners for the same availability groups? The short answer is no, but as you can use, the standard answer is always, it depends on SQL Server. So here I can use also, it depends. But I'll explain this. So first of all, Microsoft instructions use only SQL Server Management Studio in order to change settings of the availability group. But if you go there and try to add a new listener when you have already one listener, you have an error message saying that the availability group already has a listener, so another listener cannot be created there. In the books online, you can check also this message from Microsoft that we cannot use another thing other than the Management Studio to change the availability group, and they explicitly say to do not use the failover cluster manager to manipulate AG. But the same Microsoft says that you can work around this problem using the failover cluster manager, and the link is there. So I'm going to show you this and exemplify how to do this. So first of all, why I would do this? They in that article they talked about two scenarios, but I think only one can be, yeah, you can see more often. Is this one is about the legacy clients. Basically, if you have a scenario when you need to migrate some database to the same AG, and those and applications connecting to this database are legacy clients where you cannot change, or for some reason you cannot change the connection string and the target instance, you have a problem because you can only add one listener, and in this case you would need to add more than one in order to redirect all the connections to the right place. So how can I do this? I will show in the demo also. Let's come back to this VM and going to the failover cluster manager. We can check that we have this role called AG02, which is the one that represents this availability group that is here in the management studio. And we have this is us connecting the SQL Server to this failover cluster manager, and you have a listener and one IP. You can add only one listener. Okay, if I can show you here. I already have this listener. You can add only one listener, but inside of the listener you can add multiple IPs, even IPs from different subnets, by the way. So the constraint here is at the computer name point of view. So you can see here you have the listener DNS name, you have the port number, and all the IPs that are responding to this computer name. You can keep adding more. If you click here, you can add more listeners for different subnets, by the way. Okay, but if you go here and try to add a listener, you have that error message saying that you cannot do this. Okay? So what's the workaround here? Basically, you just right-click the role of for the respective AG and go to add resource and add a client access point. Okay. Let me just copy this name. Okay. So basically, you just put here the name of. I have permissions to do this, by the way. You add the computer name, the IP for this new listener, and proceed with the creation. So let's wait. This is still syncing here. Okay. Okay, the new resource was created. So we need to bring this online. Let me bring the IP online. Okay, and the computer. Okay, this is bringing the resource online, and while this is loading, I'm going to open a script here to show something. Okay, the computer name is online, the related IP is online as well. So let's check here. If you refresh the listeners, nothing new appeared here. If I execute this this query, this view, you will be able to see all the listeners of the AG, and this is not showing anything more than the normal DNS name and the port. Okay, so we are missing something here, and what's missing is add a dependency on this AG resource. So basically, go to the Properties, Dependencies tab, and add a dependency on the legacy name that I just added. Okay, something important here is this option and or condition. I suggest you to put OR here, unless you have some specific requirement. So this means that this role can be online if one of those two listeners are online. If you keep the AND here, if one listener fails, the entire role will fail. Okay, so I keep this with OR. So let's click OK. Just this, I don't need to restart, I don't need to do anything more. I just refresh here and I see the legacy here. Legacy name is here, the new listener is here. And if I query also this view, I will check that the listener is here as well. And I check also that there is no port, so this is null, because this needs to be done in the SQL Server side. I cannot do this on Failover Cluster Manager. So I will just, I have two options, okay? First one is go here to the Management Studio and put the port here, or execute tsql, and this is what I'm going to do. Okay, so I set the port 1444. If I query the view again, I see that the port is set. Okay, and we can now connect, we are done. Okay, so legacy name, port 1444, and we are connected, right? So primary replica. This is the workaround, and this works. So if you want to do this, Microsoft does not recommend this, but you can do. If you have a scenario and you must do this, you do this, right? So we are done with the fourth one. Let me check what time is it here. Okay, need to hurry. So let's go to the number five. Curiosity number 5 is how a memory optimized table works with availability groups. So Inmemory OLTP is the feature where you can create memory optimized tables. And the transaction log is the part that is responsible to sync the replicas. As I said, you are sending log records from the primary to the secondaries in order to keep the replicas, including the primary, in sync. So what's the relation of this with the in-memory OLTP? Just to introduce, you can have two flavors of tables in the in-memory OLTP. One is non-durable tables, and the other are durable tables. And what's the difference? Basically, just in an overview, the non-durable table is faster than the durable. The durable table, the memory optimized table itself is way faster than a traditional disk table. But the non-durable table is faster than the durable. But why this is faster? It's not magic. Okay, so basically the durable table is always fully logging its operations. You have two places to write, basically. You have the transaction log and you have the checkpoint files, which is something related to the in-memory OLTP feature. The non-durable table is faster because transaction log is not used, so the data is not safe here. We use the non-durable table as a kind of temporary data repository. You put data there like website sessions. You can lose this with no problem, but yeah, you have a very good performance with these tables. So the non-durable tables are not logging its activities. This means that the data is not being sent to the secondary. So to better view, we check that when you create a non-durable table, the schema will be transmitted because this will be logged. But the durable table is transmits the schema and also the data. This means that if you want to have the data of the non-durable table in the secondary replica, you fail because the data will be online and available only in the primary replica. You can still query the table in the secondary replica, but you cannot have result set. It's empty, always empty. You can have a possible solution here, okay, without losing too much performance. You just convert the non-durable table into a durable table, and to minimize the impact of the log operations, you can use a delayed durability in order to reduce this impact of write to the transaction log. Of course, you will not have the performance of the non-durable table, but it's closer than the durable. It's a way. If you must have the data in the secondary replica, you can do this, right? So let's check a quick demo again because we are almost run out of time. I'm going to open another script here. Okay, so I have two tables created here, and already created. The first one is the shopping cart, which is a durable table. How I know this? Because there is nothing mentioning that this is not durable. By default, all the tables are durable. And I know that this is a memory optimized table because of this, this parameter here. Okay, and I have another table called user sessions, which is non-durable because of this durability schema only, and is also a memory optimized table, right? So first of all, let me delete a possible, oops, I'm wrong database again. Let me delete a possible, I'm the wrong replica. Oh, fine, executed everything. So this is deleting the data from both tables and inserting data to either to both shopping cart and user sessions table. Okay, we can go now to the database, check the tables, and let's select the data inside of those tables. Shopping cart. Shopping cart is the durable one. Okay, so we have 4 rows there. Oh, good. We are in the primary replica. Okay, let's check the non-durable table, the user session. Select this. We have 6 rows. Okay, as expected, you have data in the primary replica. So let's go now to the secondary replica. Okay, this one. We have a readable secondary. Let's go to the tables. The tables are here, shopping cart and user session. Let's select shopping cart. Durable table, the data is here still. Okay, 4 rows, that's it. So let's run the query in the non-durable. Okay, as expected, we got this, the select worked, okay, but the data is not there. So why I'm showing this? Because if you are expecting this to be here, don't burn your brain, because this will never be here. Okay, it's not expected to be here. If you need to have the data in the secondary replica, you need to convert your non-durable table into a durable table, and that's it. Okay. So continuing, the curiosity number 5 done. So let's go to the last one. The last one is related to migrate the database mirroring or log shipping to availability group. And this is a nice thing because mirroring is deprecated. So in the future, maybe you would need to do this. So I will show you how to do this. So can I migrate mirroring or log shipping to AG? The direct answer is yes, we can do this, and that's good that you can, right? So first, we need to prepare the main pillars of this. And there are some steps to run into. The first one is join the servers to an Active Directory if are not already. I'm talking about the SQL, the Windows server, okay? We're not in the SQL Server part yet. So we need to join the servers to the AG. We need to install the failover cluster feature. Well, when you have a database mirroring or log shipping, you don't need to have a failover cluster there. You have 2 standalone instances in a separate operating system. In order to have the availability group, you need to have all the servers in a group of failover cluster, okay? Being part of a failover cluster. Third, create the cluster containing both standalone servers. As I said, you need to install the failover cluster feature on each one of the windows, and then create the cluster and add the nodes to this cluster. So the primary, not the primary and secondary, in this case, the server number 1 and number 2. After that, you need to make sure that both servers have the same drive letters, folder structure, and disk space. Why this? When you had mirroring, you could like have the database in one server, based on a disk, I don't know, maybe disk D with the data, disk L with the log files, and the other server with a mirror. You could put the data in a disk F and the log in a disk G, for example. Yeah, for SQL Server, this is the same. Okay. For the availability groups, this is not true. You need to have the same folder structure on both replicas. This is a must here. Okay, this is enforced. Otherwise, you cannot even attach the database in the other side. This won't work. Something that is not enforced here, that is not a must, is the disk space. You can have one replica with, I don't know, 100 gigabytes and the secondary with 50 gigabytes, which is very bad. Don't do this. It is not verified. You can still configure everything, but this will probably you can run into problems with this. Okay. For example, if you have 10 gigs for the log file in the secondary and 15 in the primary, and for some reason the log, the database are not synchronizing, for a network issue, for example, the log will grow a lot in the primary, and you have no space to send this to the secondary. So yeah, we can run out of space in the primary. So yeah, there are a lot of things that can happen here. And in the end, you need to enable the always-on availability group feature in the instance. And I'm supposing here that you already have a version of SQL Server 2012 or 2014 in this case, because are the version that have this this feature. Okay, so we have all the basic steps here. So the servers are ready to receive this new configuration to be migrated. So let's look for the particular points here. It started from database mirroring. So first thing, we need for the database mirroring, we need to disable the backups. Why this? Because if you disable the mirroring and keep the backups running, okay, probably you have a log back, you can have a log backup in the middle of the operation, and yeah, and have problems when trying to synchronize the primary and secondary replica. So disable the backups. After that, you can break the mirror session, and you can create an availability group, including that database that was mirrored and now will be in an availability group. When you do this, you need to use the join option, because you already have the database in history mode in this future secondary replica. Okay, you can also, if you don't want, if you already have an availability group, you just add a new database. No need to create a new one, of course. After that, database are in sync. You can enable backups, remove the mirroring remaining jobs, and in the end, point the applications to the listener if you have created one. Okay. For the log shipping, it's almost the same. You disable backups. You disable the log shipping. Log shipping is based on jobs, okay? You have jobs to pick up the log, copy, and restore it, okay? So when you disable log shipping, all those jobs will be deleted. So you don't need to worry about jobs here, okay? So disable the log shipping, create the availability group, including the database, or join the database to a new or to already existing availability group using the join option. Enable the backups after the database are in sync, and then point the applications. Okay, so I'm going to show, this is the last demo, the last curiosity here. I will show this process here. We have like 12 minutes here. So, okay, I have in my environment those two databases. This first one is in a log shipping, and this second one is being mirrored. Okay, and here is a future secondary replica for this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to migrate those two databases to AG and join those databases to this already existing availability group, the one that will add a new listener. So let's say that those databases are the databases that are being accessed by the legacy client that made us create this listener. So database mirroring, starting from this, we go to tasks, ship transaction logs. Okay, I will show you here and the jobs. You have some jobs for the database mirroring here, right? So those two jobs, oops, bad stuff. Those two jobs are LS means log shipping. So we are going to disable log shipping now, and those jobs will be removed. So to disable log shipping, simple, just unmark this, click yes, okay. This is going to process something, and we are done. Okay, database. The database is not in the database mirroring session anymore. You have this other database in the second footer, secondary replica in history mode. So what I'm going to do now is simple. Just in this availability databases here, I will right click here, add database. We can see that the log shipping database meets the prerequisites. So let's select this. Next, use the join only option, I said. Connect to the secondary. Go ahead. And this will add this, we join this database to the AG. You can see that this is already here, by the way. So let's leave this processing. You can do now the same thing for the database that is being mirrored. So this one. So following the steps, first thing to do would be remove the backup. So I'm not doing backups here. That's why I didn't stop the backups for the log shipping. Same thing for the database mirroring. The backups are not working here already. So I'm going to break the mirror. So again, go to tasks, mirror option. Just click in this beautiful and dangerous button, remove mirroring, this one. Let me remove this, confirm. Okay. If I refresh the database, I see that this is not in a mirroring session. I can do the refresh in this one as well. Okay, now this database here is in the history mode, right? Okay, so I'm going to add, as I said, as I did before, add this database in the availability group. So again, this database is meeting the prerequisites. Select this, choose the join only option, connect to the secondary, next, finish, and this will be joined there. Okay, you can already see this is processing, and if you refresh this, you can see now all the three databases are synchronized. Oops, again, are in the AG, okay, and synchronized. Right? So we are done. The last curiosity. I hope you like this. If you have questions, I'm available.
So Murilo, thank you very much for the awesome session. We do have some questions that have come in during the session, so I'm just going to go through those now. Let me just bring up the question pane.
Okay.
Get those available for us. So the first question that we have is, how can I do read-only secondary update statistics? So I'm thinking that they're
Okay, you need to do this manually. You don't have the automatic update statistics. You need to do this by yourself. Okay, in the secondary.
Okay. And a follow-up question is, how can I run old cardinality on read-only databases?
Sorry, how can I run what?
The old cardinality, so forcing the previous cardinality on those databases, on the secondaries.
No, I didn't understand the question. Basically.
Yeah, so we can come back to that one. If statistics on TempDB are on the read-only replica, I have a performance problems and I want to run the old cardinality hint. What can I do? So I think that's a similar, the same question really. They want to be able to regress to the earlier cardinality.
Yeah. So yeah, the problem here is didn't understand the question, so it's better to go ahead.
I think the only way you could do that would be to enforce it with a trace flag to revert the query trace on to the trace flag for reverting to the old cardinality formulas. So you could do that with a query trace on option in the query itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Another question here. I want to create index for read-only database and go to primary database. When I create index on primary database, fail old execution plan for primary query. So it looks like that they're trying to create an index for the secondary, and they want to run that on the primary as well.
Okay, you cannot create in the secondary. If I understood well this, the way is creating the primary, and this will be synchronized to the secondary. So you cannot have only one replica.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounded like they were saying, can I just have the index on the read-only database? And it's no, you have to have it on both for the schemas to be identical. Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, you cannot do this. Would be good.
It would. Yeah. We are currently using Miranda primary secondary on 2012. What is the best justification or reason I can use to convert over to AG? So what are the benefits, probably, by the sounds of it?
Okay, I said Microsoft improved the way that the log is being sent, so you have a better performance. You have the listener, which is nice. You don't have the richness like you had in the database mirroring, but you have the listener, which is going to redirect you to the primary replica, or if you have the route defined, you can do load balancing, you can read the secondary. It depends of your requirement. If you have a very simple solution, if you have just a disaster recovery, yeah, for now I say stay in the mirror. You don't need to configure, because the configuration for the availability group is much complex than the database mirroring. You need to have a cluster, so yeah, for now you still have mirroring, keep using mirror for if you are using this just as disaster recovery.
Unless you want to be able to read off the secondaries without having the kind of gotchas that database mirroring has. Okay.
Yeah.
Question here about ports. Is there any specific ports to be opened on servers? Nothing.
So the question was if repeat this, please.
Yeah, so basically any ports that you use in any TCP/IP ports would need to be open for communication. But I think they were previously we had mirror and we had specific ports that we were communicating on. I think their question is around what ports need to be opened.
Yeah, basically you need to check if the port is being used before, and if it's free you can use and open the firewall. Of course you need to open the firewall to connect there, but you can set what you want there if the port is not being used or is not in the range of another application. So try to keep this closer to the range of SQL Server. Yeah, SQL Server by default has 1433, so try to keep more or less close to this. And before set a port, checking your network, in your company network, if another application is not using this.
So a question here about load balancing on the secondaries. If you use secondary for load balancing, how does the application handle connections if the secondary AG fails over?
Okay, so in the current version 2014, always in the connection string. Okay, you need to specify the connection string that you need to connect with as I said, you need to define the replicas accordingly, define the connection strings showing your intention if you want to go to the primary or not, and in the configuration of SQL Server you have something called routes, so you need to configure the routes that will redirect you to the specified replica. If you are connected to the primary and you want to go to read only, you will define which replica you are going to connect. We are going to be redirected in this case. If you look in Google and check for availability group routes, you will check the steps to do this. It's simple, but you need to do this using T-SQL. You don't have a user interface to do this. On SQL 2016, you have this improved. You have a load balancing the listener level, which is better, using a round robin, okay, which is improved.
So that was the questions. There was a comment here that we should have had just 24 hours only for this one session. So I think that's probably about right. There's a lot of material that you would that you can cover on this subject for sure. So if you can move to the next slide for me, Murilo. please?
Yes, sure.
So I'd like to thank you all for attending the Curious Cases of Availability Groups. I'd like to thank Murilo for his time and his expertise. I'd also again like to thank our presenting sponsors, Microsoft, Cisco, and Dell Software, and our supporting sponsors, SQL Sentry, HP, and SolarWinds. We hope you enjoyed this session as much as we did. Follow along on social media with @Pass24Hop and share your thoughts on the event with hashtags #Pass24Hop and #SQLPass. Next slide, please. Stay tuned for our next session. Don't repeat yourself, an introduction to Agile SSIS development with Catherine Williamson, happening in a few minutes, actually happening now. So thank you very much, Murilo. It's been a pleasure again to spend some time with yourself, and awesome session. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you to attend. See you next year. Bye-bye.